spotlight it, and Jessa and I say we start.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. We are excited for, I guess it's our final one. So in a way, it's a bittersweet thing because this has been a fun project to do with you guys. But we are excited for tonight's recipe, which is where I was going with that, and the fact that we are ending sort of with dessert. And that's the apple crisp pie that we'll be making. And anything that has butter, cinnamon, and sugar in it is bound to be good. So keep that in the back of your mind as we create this, and hopefully y'all got something that you can eat when we throw these in the oven, and that way you can kind of have your supper, and then when you pop this out of the oven, it'll be piping hot and ready for dessert.
Well, you got your ice cream.
Yes, hopefully you got your vanilla bean ice cream, because that will really set it off. Or Cool Whip. I have some Cool Whip in my fridge, which would be good with it too. First thing you want to make sure you get, and I'm going to do this as well because I have not done that, is to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. So make sure you take time for that. So while that's preheating, we can go ahead and start our recipe. If you've read through it some, you can see it's pretty simple tonight. The biggest thing is going to be chopping our apples, but after that, it's going to be super simple, just mixing some ingredients, putting it all in our casserole dish, and then popping that yummy deliciousness in the oven. So I've got an apple dish here, but it says you can use any sort of baking dish that's roughly a quart in size to bake your apple pie. And I've also got cooking spray, which we'll need for that first step to prepare to get that ready to put our sliced apples in. Like we've kind of reiterated in each of our sessions, is to make sure you go ahead and lay out your ingredients for any recipe that you're getting ready to cook, and it just makes things go a lot smoother for you, so you're not constantly running back and forth and trying to find those things. So if you're working on that now, I'll briefly go through what I have laid out on my display table, which you can pretty well see, I believe. I've got three different jars over here. We've got some brown sugar, some white sugar, and some flour all setting up here. I've got the cornstarch, my lemon juice, cinnamon, one of my favorite ingredients that I tend to add way more of than's ever needed in any recipe, but you may see that happen tonight as well. And then I've got my oats. It called for the old-fashioned oats, and of course apples. And we were discussing this as an office, what the best apples to use for a recipe, so we can talk about that here in a bit once we get into slicing and dicing of that. Beside the ingredients, oh, and butter, sorry, got my butter back here. The other equipment that you see here are our knives and cutting board, a whisk, or if you have a fork to use. I've got one of these type weird fork things that I'm going to use to kind of smash the butter in, but you may have something at home that works even a little bit better than that, so you might beat me down in that step. If you have an apple cutter, that's one thing we can use. And then continue slicing with our knives. If you have one of those really cool apple peelers, you're welcome to use that too. I will not be demonstrating that tonight, but that might be something that you have in your household, which would come in handy for tonight's recipe. And then I've got a couple bowls that we'll need when we mix some of our ingredients. So first things first, it tells us to take our spray, and we're going to just kind of spray down our pan so that it's ready for our apples once we get those sliced. So just a light coating there to keep it from sticking. And I'm going to set this aside for now. And next, we're going to jump into the slicing and dicing of the apples. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my cutting board over here. And the recipe calls for 3 medium-sized apples. What I did was buy a bag of pink lady apples, which are really good for apple pies. And then also Honeycrisp was one that we talked about as an office, so I had bought some of those. Looking at the sizes of them though, where these pink ladies are a little small, I'm going to pretend like that totals 3 of these total about 2 medium size, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a large apple Honeycrisp. I don't know if I said that right the first time, for that 3rd apple. And that way you can't go wrong having a few more apples. I'm just adding the healthy to this dish. That's the way I like to look at that. So then what we're going to do is I'll start with one of these. You're gonna put it on your cutting board. And if you have one of these apple slicers, they are amazing and can really make this job just a little bit easier. And I believe, did we include these, Kenna? I believe we might have included these in a grab and go bag that some of you maybe had gotten. But what you're gonna do, if
We
you
did
never
not have enough for everybody, so we did not.
okay.
In the
Just
past,
kidding.
some things, so.
Okay, and that's okay. If you don't have one of these, maybe this might be a job for the parent in the household to work through. But I will demonstrate how this works. So you're gonna take the very center of these apple cores and you're gonna kind of put it right into your apple so that when I press down, I wanna make sure my fingers are back, but I'm gonna put the weight on the sides. Then I press down and it slices my apples. Kind of reminds me of one of those really good, or what are those onions that do that thing? Blooming onion. Kind of reminds me of that look. And then it takes the core right out of it for us so I can discard that. And from there, I am going to peel my apples. And some of you, I should have started with this. Some of you maybe prefer to peel in the beginning, and that's an option too. For me, this makes it a little easier, kind of gives me some flat edges to hold on to, and I can kind of peel my apple slices a little bit easier and quicker, in my opinion. But like I said, if any of you have experience with this and prefer to peel it as a whole apple, you can certainly go that route too. And I'm going to bring my discard bowl so I'm not reaching over anything here. And so that's what we are working on. And if any of you kiddos are working on this, you just be really careful with the knife. You want to take your time, try never to be in a hurry when you're working with knives and in the kitchen. I tend to do things at a fast pace, so I have to remind myself that constantly to slow down. Did anybody else choose a different apple than what I've got here? Again, I have Honeycrisp and Pink Lady.
We got Red Delicious.
Red Delicious.
Too, because it's a good soft apple.
We got Ambrosia's.
That's good too.
Did anybody get the Gala apples? Or is that what they are? Gala or Fuji, or maybe that's two different ones. Those are all ones that I tend to like just on their own. I can't say that I've cooked with them. Oh, there goes my oven. It's preheated. So one thing I had noticed in our book, it gives you variations of how you can cook this recipe, use other things besides apples or in addition to. What that first one there talks about incorporating some blueberries with this recipe, which would be really good. So I think it uses blueberries and even some apricots. The second option there uses peach as an option, which would honestly be one that I would love to try because I absolutely love all things peach. And then you could also do like a mixed berry crisp, and you could substitute really whatever types of vegetables or not vegetables, fruits or berries that you like. I guess you could put some vegetables in there, but I'm not sure that that would come out tasting quite the way you wanted.
I think if you got one of our calendars that have the recipes in it, there's a peach one in there, very similar to this. In our cooking through the calendar, we do a peach. We'll do a peach one, whatever month that falls in.
And if you're using your little core for the apple slicer, sometimes the core doesn't exactly get just right. Like this one here, I'm having to go through and peel just a couple pieces that still have the core on it. And that's normal. Just be careful with your knife.
Shelley, are you putting them straight in your dish or are you putting them in a bowl?
I'm discarding the peeling. Oh, sorry. I just realized my bowl is not really showing up. I'm discarding here in the bowl, and I will add my slices into the baking dish here in just a minute. I guess I'm doing 2 apples. I'm going to put those in the baking dish, and then I'll go back and get my other apple.
So while Shelley's peeling all the most nutritious part of the apple off, you could leave the peels on if you want it. You might want to cut them a little smaller if you did, but I know a lot of people like to peel their apples, but when you're thinking of the fiber and the nutrition in that apple, leaving those peels on make them much more healthier.
I agree. I guess I'm sort of following the recipe here, but
It does say peel, but most apple pies you have don't have peels on them. So
That's true.
I'm just, if you're eating that apple, eat that peel.
I would agree. And if this was me not behind a camera, I would leave the peeling as well. I'm all about that extra nutrition. And honestly, the peeling sometimes is the best part for me on different foods. I feel that way about potatoes, especially. Even my son is all about the peelings on potatoes.
I would probably leave them on too, more so because I'm a lazy cook and I've told you all that.
How are we doing on the screen? Are we still cooking, slicing?
People are doing good. We got a lot of slicing to do and peeling. So this is the most time consuming part of the recipe. So, and the smaller you cut the apples slices, the quicker or the more tender those apples will be in your baking as well.
That's right.
So if you want a nice soft apple or a softer apple, cut them a little thinner. If you like a little crunch to your apple crisp, you can leave them a little thicker. You can cube them if you'd rather it be that way, but the rest, Chili's doing it as the recipe says. It kind of says slice them. But you could actually, cut them in half again if you wanted. That's totally up to you.
Yes. So I've done 2 apples so far. I'm going to go ahead and kind of place these in my baking dish. I'm not getting too fancy or creative with it, just trying to lay them out so they're not super stacked on each other. You could get fancy with them if you wanted.
Just had to taste her apple, make sure they were good. Everybody else taste their apple, make sure they were good.
Of course.
Looks like,
That is really good.
I don't know if I see this right. It almost looks like somebody's using Granny Smith. Yep, I thought I saw a green apple there. Those are my favorite apples. Granny Smith are really good. They're just to have a little more tartar taste to them, but I like a tart apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, hey, if you're going to add some sweet ice cream on there, that'd be the good
Yeah.
combination.
I agree.
What do you want to?
Oh, somebody else is preheated. So my oldest daughter just got a pony this weekend. And she will be so excited to have some of these extra little discarded apple pieces to feed her pony. Okay, I'm down to my last apple. Did everybody else beat me done? I went on and threw in that fourth one just because I felt like the first three were small. And this will also, at least I can taste the difference. If I think one apple tastes. Now, to tell you the truth, I won't know which apple tastes better if I do taste the difference. Because there's no way to really know, but I guess I could have left the peeling on this one. That'd be a way to know, wouldn't it?
We actually tried ours. We have the red delicious apples, and then we used one pink lady to see what the difference was. And the pink lady is a little bit more sweet.
No,
We thought. Casey didn't like it. I liked it better.
I like the red delicious. Num num.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I will be looking for sweet flavors out of the pink lady then for sure.
I'm a pink lady apple fan. That's just me. But I know a lot of people like those red delicious.
First time I ever had a pink lady. It is pretty good.
It is not for me.
If you look at a really good pink lady and you cut it in half, it's called kind of pink lady because it'll have a pink stripes going through it on the inside. Not all of them do. They have to be really good in season and a really good pink lady, but you can see the pink on the inside.
I'll have to look for that. Okay, I think that's probably good. I'm going to save these 2 slices for my snack for after this while my apple crisp is cooking. And I'll save this for Senor Carrots. That's what my daughter Willow decided to name her pony. She loves the movie Spirit or the TV show Spirit. There is a movie coming out, so I'm hoping to be able to take her to theaters to see that. But anyway, that was the name that she chose. That's the donkey off of that show. How we doing at home? We still cutting some of our apples? Looks like we got some still cutting.
Jessa's yelling at me for helping her. She told me to watch the screen, see how people are doing.
It's so funny.
Takes longer to cut up apples than you
It
think.
sure does.
It's the people that takes a long time.
Yes.
Mama, you can help us all you want. I just ate an apple off of the.
Decrease. So you just click on the background, click on that, yeah.
Hey, Monica.
Hi. The email said it's 6:30 and then I just saw yours saying 6. I'm thinking, what's going on here?
Did I say 6:30? When did?
Well,
Oh,
the email to remind us of the meeting said 6:30, so I waited until
Oh,
20
that's
after to get
through
up.
extension. That when it's set up in our pace where everybody registers, but they've always been 6. So I'm sorry.
Okay,
Pace
well, that's all right. We'll catch it
things
up.
sometimes with our times. So that's why I try to always send emails.
Well, look at it this way, Monica. You've just missed out on the slow part of watching us and doing all the apple slicing. So I know that might put you back just a little bit, but you're welcome to join in with the other two portions of the recipe, and we can get you started there. And then after that, you'll have extra time at the end that you can dice up your apples and then add the two mixtures that we're getting ready to make over top of it. All right, it looks like most folks are about ready for that next step. So our recipe, if you look at it, tells us that we need a small bowl and we're going to combine, looks like 4 ingredients. So I'm going to take my small bowl here and we need to combine our sugar.
Is everybody ready to go on with the next step? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, looks pretty good. Those that I can see, and I know. All right.
Okay.
Good.
I'm going to move this over. I've got my computer up here, so it's a little bit higher so I can look a little more like I'm looking at the screen there. So it tells us we're going to need our sugar, we're going to need our cornstarch, water, and our lemon juice. So I'll start with the sugar. If you look up in the ingredients, looks like we need 2 tablespoons of sugar. So you can take your tablespoon, which got mine that we've used these, I think, these past few recipes. And you're going to find your tablespoon and measure out 2 tablespoons worth. Okay. And then next up is the cornstarch. Looks like we need 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. This aside.
If we do not have the lemon juice, how bad is that going to ruin this recipe?
I think you'll be fine. It just calls for a, let's see, it's a small amount, just a half a teaspoon.
Yeah, and the quicker you get in the oven, the better, because the lemon juice is going in to keep the color from turning.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
You can put a little lime juice if you'd have lime juice. You could add fruit fresh. You could put a tad of fruit fresh, but you're basically, it's just helping with the color of the
Okay.
apples.
Thank you.
Put a little more cinnamon on it and they'll not know if they turn brown.
I like that game plan. I might be adding the extra cinnamon, even though I do have lemon juice. All right, I'm going to step over here to my sink. So I'll disappear for a second so I can get my water. And it tells me I need 1.5 teaspoons of water.
Okay, so we actually found a lemon.
Hey, if you
So-
cut it, just
Can I do it?
squeeze the
Okay.
lemon.
Let me do it.
Yeah. Some other things that can help your apples from turning, you can put any kind of juice on them. If you would have had a tad of apple juice, you could have put a little bit of Sprite or something like that, helps keep them from turning as well. But it's just that something that has a little bit of acid in it that's going to help keep them from turning. So that's why we're adding that lemon to it.
Very good. Once you get those poured together, you can kind of whisk them together, which I used here, or if you just have a fork, that's fine too. Kind of get that all mixed in together. And then after that, I think it tells us we're just going to go ahead and pour that over our apples. So here's where you want to pour slow to make sure that you kind of get all over the mixture, because we got to have that sweet goodness everywhere. And if you have a spatula, you might grab that to make sure you get all of your ingredients out of the bowl. No sugar left behind. And that surprisingly goes farther than you think it would.
If you don't think it's mixed up there any good, you could use that same spatula and mixed it around just a little bit if you need to. If you were a heavy pourer in one spot,
Have we poured on our mixture there? We still have some folks. Do we have some thumbs up? Are we ready for the next bowl? Okay, seeing some thumbs up. Okay, so our next step is to combine the remaining ingredients, which are going to be the oats and the brown sugar, the ground cinnamon. So I'm going to grab my bowl here, set my apple crisp aside for a minute. And starting with the oats, it looks like we need, there it is, half a cup of old-fashioned oats.
so if you were making this recipe and you were gonna feed more than a small crowd, you could double this recipe if you doubled all your ingredients and put it in a 9x13 pan as well. So if this is an easy recipe to double. And it would fit well in a 9x13 pan then.
And then you have more to eat, which would be awesome.
Yeah. If you have bigger, more people at your house.
Yes, which I'm finding at my house, we're needing to start doubling a lot of things. I've got 1/4 cup of flour that I'm pouring in over my mixture. And up next, it tells us to add the brown sugar, which is 1/4 cup of brown sugar packed. So this means we're gonna pack this cup. I'm just gonna use the same one that I had with the flour because I have an extra spoon here to dip it out with. And don't forget to pack it in there because then you can get more brown sugar in, which is what the recipe is measured for. Put that in there. And so once you've packed it, when you dump it, it should kind of hold its shape. And that's how you know that you packed it in there like it asked. And we have the cinnamon, which needs to be 1/2 teaspoon. Now, I said I might measure a little heavy here, and I don't blame you one bit at home if you do the same.
One of my kids don't like cinnamon. I'm thinking, what is wrong with her?
I don't know.
Yeah, Kelsey doesn't like cinnamon or the scent of cinnamon. She'll like it in some dishes, but she don't like the smell.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Okay, and that's all of our measured out ingredients. Next, we just need to add in the butter, and it tells us that we need 1/4 cup of cold butter, and that measurement is on here for us. If anybody's looking at their stick of butter, can you see how many tablespoons makes that 1/4 cup? It's 4 tablespoons. So you literally are just going to cut right halfway through your butter. And then we're going to add that in slices into the into our bowl. So just be careful with this. You can use your cutting board if you need to, or if you want to kind of slice it down with a knife over top of your bowl, that's an option as well, but just be careful because butter can get a little slippery and we don't want anybody hurting their fingers. And so once you do that, I'm gonna get some of that butter off my hand so that I can hold on to my utensil. This is what I'm gonna use. Like I said, it's kind of a fork, a big fork to smash this all in there. And this is, we're cutting in the butter basically. And if you read there, it talks about you wanna do this until your bowl mixture is crumbly. So this might take just a minute or two to mix everything in there real good.
If you can see what I'm holding in my hand, there's also a thing called like a pastry cutter. So you could use something similar to this or a fork. Jessica, do you want to use this?
Yes.
Mommy will get it.
I don't have a pastry cutter, so I am opting for this large fork.
A
But
fork
that pastry cutter would
does
probably
fine.
do a little bit nicer job if you have that at home.
Don't use your finger on that. That'll cut you.
No, I'm just. No.
Hopefully you're starting to see a crumbly mixture in your bowl.
Another thing that you could have done if you didn't have a fork and or want to use it as a fork, you find it harder, you can always mix it with your hands. No, you will get a little messy, but if your hands are clean, that's a good option as well to get it crumbled in very well, get it crumbled in good as well.
All right, and we all have clean hands, right? Because we washed our hands before we started. So that's the fun way to do it. We're about cooking with kids. That's what we probably just should have done, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I am pretty crumbled and mixed together. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pour this, kind of sprinkle it, I guess, over the apples. It's more what will happen here.
Bad.
And this is the crisp part of your apple crisp.
Topic. Bandits on your finger.
Make sure you get this poured or sprinkled kind of all over. Don't leave any spot uncovered. All right. How we doing at home in your all's kitchens?
I saw somebody's hand up. Did somebody have a question? Or maybe they just put a hand up.
Maybe they accidentally pushed the button.
Yeah. Megan, do you have a question? I like Shelley's dish. Looks very pretty.
Oh, my mother-in-law gave me this.
Anybody else have any fancy dishes they're putting theirs in? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. We're just putting in an, oh, that looks good too. Very good.
Does anybody have their dish ready that you can show us what it looks like on the screen? I'll show you what mine looks like.
I'm glad Shelley said, show us your thing because I'm failing. I didn't take any photos.
All right. I'm gonna set mine down and I'm gonna thumb through here. Has anybody else shown theirs? I can't see everybody, so I've just.
I'm gonna see if I can view gallery view and kind of see. Oh, I see several showing them now. Riley, that looks pretty. Looks good. Casey, how's yours coming?
Well, we think that we did the last part of this wrong, but because our butter is not, I don't know. It's not all crumbly like you said.
Is
It's
it
more, it's still powdery kind of.
It will be powdery some if you have the right ingredients in with it. You should still be okay because that butter will incorporate it as it goes. Okay, that looks good. Jessica, pull up your bowl and let's see what it looks like.
Hold on, we're not done.
I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think you're coming along. It just
Yeah.
a little bit more maybe, and the butter will continue to kind of stick to that. But that's, I mean, you're right on track. That's the way it was looking.
And then know as you as it heats, that butter's going to incorporate more if you're not quite.
Nice mix. Yeah. You should spread that and like crinkle it up a bit, probably. Ooh, I see the butter connected.
I see you keep eating apples. You like
Mhm.
apples? Yummy. Jess is eating apples right after.
It's pretty good. I think that'll work.
Everybody almost oven ready?
Oh yeah, there we go. See one up there that looks awesome.
Can you cut me up the apple? Please?
Okay.
How many?
Once you get yours done, don't forget the most important part, and that's put it in the oven so it'll heat up and do its thing, and then it will taste amazing in 20 to 25 minutes. So you want to make sure you set your timer, and when you pull it out, just give it just a couple minutes to cool down so it doesn't burn your tongue. But really, by the time you slice it up and out of there and add your ice cream, that'll cool it down. You're probably pretty good to eat it. It comes out of the oven.
So when you 20 minutes, I would set a timer for 20 minutes. Check it. You want the top to be a little crisp. So if you want it a little crisper, put it in for a little longer. You want your apples to be tender, so you can always take a fork and see how they poke into your apples as well. And you can leave it into the doneness that you desire. So start with that 20 minutes, check it, put it in for a little longer time. And hopefully by the time you finish dinner, it will be coming out of the oven. So should be good.
Thank you all.
We're kind of like, this wraps up our cook together, eat together. We will, Shelley will hopefully, or 4-H will hopefully be offering a cooking club for those that are 4-H age next school year, providing we're allowed to. You know, we're keeping our fingers crossed. Life is looking more normal, and we're hoping it stays normal. So watch for information on that. Watch for an evaluation from us, maybe a few weeks after this session, to where we're going to ask you some questions similar to what we asked you before the first session. And then we're also going to see what other wonderful recipes you might have cooked out of your book. So look through that book. If there's another one that you try, please share that with us. We'll also ask you that in a follow-up email with an evaluation on it as well. We hope you've enjoyed cooking with us. We hope that really the benefit that comes from cooking in the kitchen and starting kids early cooking in the kitchen is they tend to eat healthier. You tend to have more family meals together, and that's what Shelley and I know is very important. And that's what we hope you continue to do, cook as a family. Any questions? Everybody good?
I have one.
The 4-H age, is it a 9?
9 as of January 1st.
Okay.
I have a question.
What's your question?
My question is,